Welcome back to 13 Nights of Halloween, where we're counting down to the big night with 13 films rooted in one of horror's most unsettling subgenres, folk horror. I'm Tim.
And I'm Jonathan, and tonight we're diving headfirst into the one that started it all, the patron saint of folk horror, The Blueprint, the movie that makes you question festivals, small towns, and anyone offering you fruit, 1973's The Wicker Man.
Yeah, not to be confused with the 2006 version starring Nicolas Cage and his whole "not the bees." We're talking about the original British classic directed by Robin Hardy, starring Edward Woodward as Sergeant Neil Howie and the legendary Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle.
This movie defined what folk horror could be. It's part of what horror scholars call the unholy trinity of folk horror, alongside Witchfinder General and Blood on Satan's Claw. And even 50 years later, it's still as eerie, strange, and deeply unsettling as it was the day it was released.
It's such a fascinating structure, too. There's barely a drop of traditional horror in this movie until that final act, arguably the final scene. It's more like a slow, sunlit descent into madness. The horror isn't in monsters or gore. It's in the customs, the smiling faces, the idea that an entire community could be in on something you don't understand until it's too late.
Exactly. It's that clash of belief systems, Howie's Christian faith versus the island's pagan rituals that really drives this film. And let's not forget, Christopher Lee considered The Wicker Man his best performance. He even did it for free because he believed so strongly in the story.
Which is insane. And honestly, folk horror is such a perfect match for October. It's the time of year where tradition and superstition blurs, where old rituals feel closer to the surface. If you're into stories about cursed lands, rural horror, or dark folklore, Halloween is also the perfect time to check out my books. So if you're loving the themes we're exploring this month, you'll definitely want to check out The Harvest of Briarville and newer release Like, Comment, Survive. Both are available now on Amazon. They're filled with the same kind of creeping dread and horror energy, although very different from this movie. They're perfect reads for October.
I've read them, and if you like what we're doing here on the show, you'll definitely want them on your Halloween reading list. But right now, we're focusing on The Wicker Man.
So grab your average review scorecards. If you don't have one, the link's in our Instagram bio. You can play along as we go through the film category by category. Things like story, visuals, character arc, how well it sticks the landing, and more.
And if you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your score and join the conversation.
Because this is the average where the real review happens with your friends.
Let's talk about The Wicker Man.
All right. So the plot of this one, the story, centers on the visit of police officer Sergeant Neil Howie to the isolated Isle of Summerisle in search of a missing girl. Howie is a devout Christian. He's appalled by the inhabitants of this island abandoning that Christian faith and now practice Celtic paganism. That's the crux of the story. Jonathan, you have more you want to add to what's going on here?
Well, by today's standards, he would be considered very, very uptight. Very uptight versus everything he sees throughout the film and just the general daily life of the town and everybody. God, it's something else, man. His strictness of being Christian and just like he's so hardcore. What's the word? What was it?
He's legalistic. He is
straight edge. That's what I'm trying to. He's like super straight edge and lawful, and just really hung really, really high and tight on that kind of level of like, what is all this debauchery? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely is. It's actually one of the things that I don't think I love about this movie is just the zero curiosity about these people. He's not like, why do you do this? What's going on? Like, where does this come from? It's all like, you're abominations. This is this is horrible. You've abandoned your Christian faith. And I'm like, whoever said they abandoned it, they didn't have to be it to begin with. It's a choice. So that's one of the things that I just think is interesting about this movie. I do think the dichotomy of that. So we mentioned before, we record these out of order. So there's no way we're getting 13 recordings in 13 nights around Halloween time. It just we've got jobs. It doesn't happen. So we have already watched tomorrow's, or no, it's not tomorrow's. It's our final episode in Midsommar, and there's so many parallels in this film.
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
So many. And it's both of them kind of approach the story with that same idea of culture shock, going into something that is totally new, totally misunderstood, maybe. I don't know if that's exactly the right word.
Sensibilities.
Yeah, it's totally different than anything these characters have grown up with and know. And the movies grapple with how they adjust to these societal changes. And so I think both of them are interesting in that regard. I do think that is interesting. We'll get into it in later categories. But this one has to be given credit for being the blueprint for that. Midsommar is clearly influenced by this film. This film is an influence on many others in the genre. So, at this point, we're recording them in reverse order. We started with Midsommar, and we're going to work back. So we're going to find that more of these are inspired by this film. Yeah. It's why it's part of that unholy trinity. It's one of the godfathers of folk horror, and it's one of the shining examples of why I don't necessarily love folk horror.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. For me, man, it's just like I was sitting here watching this film, and I'm like, so many different things that I've seen in other films and referenced in TV shows, and then just everything that I noticed that was so closely related to Midsommar. I was like, hey, I've seen that before. I've seen something like that before.
Like the maypole.
Yes. Like the references to giving to the land and, rebirth or, everything like that. It's really cool. And it's like just one of those reoccurring themes you see in a lot of these like cultish type films.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty awesome. Yeah. I was really surprised by how much I like this film, despite how old it is and how it compares to like today's standards for things and like what you see with small communities.
Yeah. I don't love this film. I'll be honest up front. I don't love this film, but I appreciate this film is how I'll state it. At times it's like a softcore porno and like the first 30 minutes is a musical and I don't know what is going on. And I'm not loving the first half of this movie, honestly. And it's more just other choices that are made, not necessarily story elements. I don't know why this woman's naked, throwing herself against the wall and singing a song to like, I know why, but I'm also like, what?
I thought it was witchcrafty. I thought for me, it was witchy. It seemed like she was trying to cast a spell to try and entice him, and like kind of, because everyone sees how uptight he is. And it seems like she's trying to draw him out of that purposely. And I was kind of like, wow. Okay.
I did
dancing around crazy, slapping on walls, trying to drive him insane because he's clearly irritated by the behavior of the people and seeing it like just a lawn, like a yard full of people getting at it in the dark. And he's just like, oh, and then like singing about the landlord's daughter being loose and stuff. And then her doing her dance thing, slamming on the walls, trying to mess with him. And just the manipulation through the whole thing, man. I thought it was incredible. I thought it worked out well. It's even though it seems like it took a while to get there. There was a lot of buildup over like most of the movie till we get to like the good parts of it. But I like the story a lot.
All right. I do think I happen to, I mean, this goes in this script, but I thought it was real funny. Like the last thing she says to him before they go to their rooms and she does her little naked witchy dance on the other side of the wall is like, I don't have any apples to give you, but how about some peaches and cream? And I was like, oh no.
And he was like, oh, but it comes from a can. Okay. I'm like, dude, don't be turd. Oh, jeez.
So I do give this story a 4. This story is the blueprint for the others that came after it. It's very original. I cannot think of a movie prior to this one that has a similar setup or near shocking an ending. I really appreciate this movie for that. I think it's kind of genius. I think it's great. So I think the story is original, even if some of the choices made along the way aren't necessarily my favorites. I do appreciate it for that. I give the story a 4.
Hell yeah. I'm a 4 on it as well. Just the way that they're all jerking him around the entire time. And you can kind of tell from the start just like how just clueless they act about it. Like, yeah, something's going on here. And they're just jerking around left and right, just trying to pull his strings.
They gaslight the hell out of him.
Oh, shit, yeah, they do. Jeez. Oh, my God. Like, pro-level action here back in the day. So, yeah, heavy 4, man.
All right. So we're in agreements on the 4. This is the one character and character arc. This one was a challenge for me. Because I don't think there's that much character arc. I don't think there's a whole lot of growth from beginning to end for anybody. I think this is who these people are. This is who these people are, or our main character, Sergeant Howie. This is who he is. This is who Lord Summerisle is, and this is their conflict. And that's the story of the movie. So I don't... Maybe the growth here is what happens to Howie at the end, finding, the surprise of him coming to... We're spoiling this movie. It's from like 1973. It's going to happen. You should have seen it already if you didn't want spoilers. He's sent to find this missing girl, and turns out that was a lure all along to get him there, or somebody like him, to get them there to become a human sacrifice. And so that is the arc of his character. I do appreciate that he stays strong in his faith at the end. I thought that was an interesting choice, to have him singing songs as he's burning alive. That's kind of interesting. And I do think, spoilers for Midsommar in 2 nights, I do think it's interesting seeing the comparison between him, who stands firm and unwavering, and later Florence Pugh in Midsommar, who opens herself up to the cult and sacrifices someone else. I do think that's one area where I actually kind of prefer Midsommar in that regard, because I think her window of perspective is a little bit more relatable. And I think her entire story is a little bit more relatable, but I think that's an interesting change to this structure of their characters. Yeah, as far as the other characters, Lord Summerisle is the most interesting character on the screen, if you ask me. He is fascinating, and Christopher Lee kills it. And we'll talk about his performance later. We'll talk about his performance later, but I'm not sure there's much arc here.
Yeah, it's really hard to give any kind of points, really, but I feel kind of middle ground about it, because even though there's not much arc, the people, they know what they're doing, man. They show how, like, they know exactly what to do, how to do it. And it wasn't just like random. They sought him out. They chose him, and specifically to send him that letter to lure him in, you know, to be king for a day, as they call it. And it just makes me think about being king for a day, fool for a lifetime. You know,
ooh, yeah.
You know, because the fact that he hijacked the innkeeper, took his Puncello costume, and was punched through the whole thing, through all the ceremony, and like they knew. And it's kind of hard not to tell. He's a lot taller than the innkeeper anyway. Didn't have the shaggy hair, so it's like, dude, we know it's not. We know who you are. And the way they run that down with him was just crazy good. And the officer himself holding to his convictions and being like, I'm engaged. I'm not going to fool around. Even though you could see he was super hardcore enticed, just being true to himself and what he believes in, even though he believes that they're all a bunch of dirty heathens.
Yeah.
And then still at the end, man, I hate it for him because being put inside that Wicker Man and lit up, I'd have been like trying to kick out part of that stuff to find like a way to jump the hell out of that thing. I wouldn't have just stood there and there. No, man. I was sad, but
you wouldn't have accepted that fate.
Hell no. I would have been trying to rock that thing back and forth till the whole thing falls over. And dude, I'd be raising hell. But just him finally realizing what's going on once they come out the little cave and Rowan, surprise alive, is like, did I do it right? And Lord Summerall's just like, you were perfect. And he comes, you see him dawn on him like he's been played, and him being like, shit. And then thinking he's going to talk his way out of it, and then not. Man, it was tough, but like I said, I'm middle ground on it. I don't want to say that there's nothing there because he had his realizations and his come to God moment and still holding to his faith at the very end. But I feel like a 3 is okay.
Yeah, I'm actually, I was a 2, but I think you're right. I think I'm going to come up to a 3 because I don't think this movie is necessarily about the growth of the characters. I think it's about the conflict between the belief systems. And I think that's the point. It's not about changing anybody's mind. So I got to give it credit for that because it had 2 people devout and unwavering in what they're doing. So I will come up. I'll give it. We're tied at 3s on this one.
That's so pretty crazy.
Yeah.
How the contrast between Lord Summerisle and Sergeant Howie, and how neither of Lord Summerisle, he just doesn't give a shit. He is unbothered because he's like, oh, I run this joint. It's private property. This is what we do here. This is part of our culture on this island. You're not going to change it. And he just, that air of him about it.
Yeah.
But it probably goes more into the acting, but anyway.
Oh, we will get there. But music and sound design. So this is one.
I'm pretty sure, you don't like this, do you?
No. This movie, I do appreciate. It's got an eclectic soundtrack. Some very
very true.
I folksy British tunes for the 70s. It definitely fits the time period. I definitely don't care for it at all. I don't care. I don't care. The opening song is grating on me.
Corn and barley rigs, corn and barley rigs.
Yes.
And then they fucking say that shit multiple times throughout the film. Like, shut up with that fucking song, dude.
Exactly.
About your corn rigs and barley rigs. Oh, no.
Corn rigs and barley rigs and barley rigs.
Give me some safety dance in the field too instead of that. Like, dude, give me a break, bro.
Yep. I am so over that song. I hate that song. I do appreciate the care that goes into the folkier, the stuff that the group actually sings as part of their religion or faith. I do appreciate those. I feel like those do a nice job of kind of rounding out who they are, and they sound appropriate for that group. So I think there's a lot of care that went into that. I don't care at all. I want to know who can I find who did the barley whatever?
Oh yeah, it's in there somewhere. I'm actually I've got it going on my TV right now, and I can see the scene where the innkeeper's daughter is dancing naked in her room, and it's incredible because she's singing. It's not just some BS.
I hate that song too.
But the fact that all these people are singing in the film, it makes it almost more of a musical in a way because there's so much of them singing along with the music, and it's not just a soundtrack, and it's not a background thing. It's like even when they got all the boys outside and they're dancing around the maypole, and they got the guy singing about the Wicker Man, there's so much musicianship in all of that to the scenes itself, and not just musical background, whatever. It's like input. Let's see, where is it? Got to be in here. No, that's not it. That's not it. Music. Here we go. Arranged, recorded, and part composed by Paul Giovanni.
No.
Willow Song.
What is going on? I hit the remote for my screen and it started like going to Netflix.
Yeah, I noticed there's a different movie like Freddy's playing in the background or something. I'm like, wait, that's not the Wicker Man.
No, Paul. So the music was composed by Paul Giovanni. I missed if you said that already.
Yeah.
Apparently, the director Robin Hardy announced midway through filming that they were going to make a musical. I don't know if that was like a joke, but like I said, the first half of the film does feel like a musical to me. There's a lot of music in this film, and it's just weird enough to feel like dreamlike music. Like it's not a full-on musical song and dance, but like you said, Willow just strips naked, starts banging on the wall above her headboard. It's like singing this witchy song, trying to seduce him, fully naked. And it's like, it feels like 10 minutes of the film's runtime of her doing that.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Other songs on the soundtrack come from a later folk tradition. For example, Corn Rigs by Scotland's national bard Robert Burns, very, very notable in the Scottish community, accompanies Howie's arrival on Summerisle. The lyrics of this song were taken directly from the Burns song, The Rigs of Barley, but Giovanni used a very different tune. So, yeah. So there was some alteration to make it match some stuff for the movie. But yeah, they played too much of that song, I think, though. That song grated on me a little bit.
I agree. I appreciate pulling from the local history and all of that. I give it credit for that. I personally, the mix of the weird musical, like almost a musical elements of it with the regular music, like it doesn't lean fully into the musical, it kind of toes the line. I wish if it had just leaned all the way into musical, I'd kind of be fine with that. So it's one of those like I can't think of it, the both feet out the door or one whatever, it doesn't stick to so it's a 3 for me. I'm gonna give it credit for acknowledging the local folk songs and lyrics from that time period. I just, like you said, it overuses the corn rigs way too much in the song. The whole witchy seduction thing is a low point for the movie for me. I get it, but it is such like a halting brakes on what is going on that I'm just like, I'm literally going, what is going on with this? This is so bizarre. And I understand why some people I can see people loving this movie for that weirdness to it. It's just not for me. So I give
it weirdness. I like that weirdness. Right. It jams for me. It's the hammy and my jammy. You know, I had a real appreciation for how much music and how most of the people participated in that music through singing and dance around and all that. And, you know, watching Willow naked dance around, I'm not going to say that wasn't bad either, because that would be awful. But it's hard to really say much other about sound design aside from music.
Yeah.
Aside from like hearing the crackling of the fire, you know, and just like minor small stuff. There wasn't really too much involved, it seemed like, as far as like rest of ambient sound when it comes to just the setting in general. But like I said, with the way I like the weird, I went with a 4 on the music and sound design.
All right. Yep. 3 and 4. So the editing and special effects for this film. So the biggest special effect is the final scene. putting our hero into a giant Wicker Man and burning him alive.
Kind of.
Kind of. It looks really good, honestly. It looks excellent. I've zero complaints there. There's really no complaints about any of the editing or special effects for this film. I think if I were to lump in set design here as well as part of the special effects, they did a great job making this little commune feel real. But I don't know that there's any like remarkable editing where certain choices are made earlier to help the story later. I don't know that that's there. I just think they did an adequate job of cutting the film together. There's some like slow crossfades over other scenes, specifically during the naked dance scene. I'm just like, man, this feels like a bad 70s porno.
Well, there's two different naked dances. You talk about the one for the end daughter or the one with the girls around the circle jumping over the fire?
Yeah. The first one. Yeah, there are two. I forgot about the ones, the circle.
You got all the women naked sitting around this thing. Like, just jumping around and singing.
It's just a horny island of pagans. That's all it is. They're naked all the time. They're just, everything is about sex all the time. Even they got all the schoolgirls in the classroom and they're like, what's the maypole represent? A penis.
Right. I was like, what?
Yeah, shell shock. Yeah, the editing of special effects, it's good. That's all I have to say about it. It's not a real standout in this film.
See, for me, the biggest special effect wasn't the Wicker Man. It was the Hand of Glory that they put in Sergeant Howie's room when he's taking the nap when they think he's asleep. And you've got, because Sergeant Howie opens that one coffin while he's searching the town, sees the dead body with a wrapped hand, with a wrapped wrist, with the coin on the eyes. And it's like, okay, well, what the hell is that all about? And then next scene after, once he goes to take, a nap, then they're like, the Hand of Glory. And then you see the hand with the fingers all lit up as like some kind of pagan black magic type shit to try and keep him asleep. So the hand with the fingers on fire, for me, that was, I think, probably the biggest special effect aside from the construction and the burning down of the Wicker Man.
I totally spaced on that one. Now that you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely remember that scene, but I totally forgot about it for right now.
Because of how much you dislike this movie.
Yep. There's so much good going on. I give it a 3. I think it's all good. Everything about this movie. I don't think I scored this movie below a 3 in anything because it is a quality film.
Yes. I'm the same. I'm sitting at a 3 because I really can't say much about the editing. I mean, it was like, what, 72 when they made this movie? Came out in 73.
70, yeah.
Old school stuff, It works well so far. I mean, the cuts back and forth, transition from angles, scene to scene, whatever, it just works.
Yeah, no, I agree. So the script is one of the high points of the film for me. Immediately, one of my favorite lines is when Lord Summerisle tells Sergeant Howie, "Do sit down, Sergeant. Shocks are so much better absorbed with the knees bent." That is so good. That line is so good.
There was great dialogue throughout this whole film for the most part. Early on, it's kind of just your standard basic investigatory whatever.
Yes.
Just try to find knowledge. But once you really get deep into it between Howie and Lord Summerisle, conversations with the teacher, Miss Morrison, and like people like the innkeeper's daughter Willow, then you get a little more depth in dialogue, and there's a whole lot more going on there. And just those conversations and the explanations between Sergeant Howie and Lord Summerisle, they get kind of in depth about the culture and the history and what all went down, and it lends a lot to the story itself.
I agree. I think Lord Summerisle is, he's the shining point of this movie, even if he's kind of the pseudo villain. I'm sure some people have different takes where Howie is the villain and Lord Summerisle is the hero. There's that perspective, but Lord Summerisle is sacrificing humans. But he's got some of the best lines in the film. Like, I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one of them kneels to another or is to own kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one of them is respectable or unhappy all over the earth. It's just there's like a classic sense of, and I kind of say this a lot, of poetry to it. There's just this elegance to the way Lord Summerisle speaks that I really like.
His sense of like calm reassurance of like, this is just how it is here. This is our way. It really kind of blankets everything, even though Sergeant Howie is just so like, oh, I can't believe all this. And then it's like one of those.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I did notice on my rewatch that this has much more of like, it begins much more like a procedural, almost like Columbo type story of the detective arriving, like, where is this missing girl? Asking questions of the cast and all the characters in town and slowly arriving to conclusions. But I didn't realize that the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was just kind of waiting for stuff because I knew how this movie ended. But second time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is very procedural, like a detective show. And I appreciate the way they structured it.
I can get down with that. There's just a lot of good dialogue in general. I like the writing they did for this. And those conversations between our two main characters, man, it's something else. And even that one part where Sergeant Howie's like, and what of the true God, whose glory, churches, and monasteries have been built on these islands for generations past? Now, sir, what of him? He's dead. Can't complain. Had his chance in modern parlance and blew it. Lord Summerisle is just like savage about it. Like, yeah,
he is.
Right, he failed. Fuck it. It's something else now.
He's kind of great. I love the way he talks. I love it. So the script is a 4 for me. I really appreciate this script. I think the dialogue is extremely well written across the board. Even some of the weird, like there's a weird scene where there's a beetle tied to a string around a nail, and this girl just has a line about it that seems out of place. Like, I was trying to, on rewatch, I was like, okay, does this lead anywhere? And I'm like, I'm not sure it does. I'm sure there are people who love this movie, and you could probably correct that and be like, oh no, this represents whatever, but I'm not seeing it right now. So, but there are some weird moments like that. But for the most part, this script, especially once Summerisle is introduced, is extremely well written. So I'm a 4 on that. Yep.
Heck yeah, I'm a 4 as well.
Okay. When it's just the two of us, we move right along.
It happens.
Well, the acting then. So the acting for this film it's another of the high points for me. We have a 1-2 punch here on the high points for the film because Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle is fantastic. I think he is so good. He's got this magnetism to him in this role that I almost say him alone is worth giving this at least one watch. Watch him perform. He doesn't come in for like till the second half of the movie almost, but he is definitely worth watching. I also think Edward Woodward playing Sergeant Howie, he's our main character, and I think he is really fantastic in his part of that devout, unwavering Catholic character that he plays. And I like it. I think he does an excellent job with that. If anything, I'd start to say that outside of those two characters, no one's bad, but no one really stands out. Maybe, is it the barkeep? What was his name?
Oh,
I have to look. Alder McGregor. Is that it? Britt Eklund plays Willow, the singing girl in the bedroom. But McGregor is really good in his part as well, honestly. He just has a little bit part that he does an excellent job with, and apparently he's... Well, I was going to say, is he still working? I think that guy's dead.
You're right, Alden McGregor. He was the landlord, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think he is great. He didn't do a whole lot in his career, but I think he does a nice job with it. But I definitely think Christopher Lee is worth the cost of admission in this film. And I do think the other Edward Woodward, whether you like his character or not, I would say that you feel that way because of his performance. Like, he does a good job in that part.
Oh, young Saruman.
Oh, yeah.
The beginnings of his evil. Yep. But, yeah, I like the acting. I don't really have much complaints about it. Everyone, gave the sense that it was like a legit small town community on an offshore, like in a small island, like everyone's tight knit, everyone does their thing, but they seem like they're still somewhat modern for the times and not like weird commune hippie kind of crazy weird.
That's true.
It kind of made it feel more relaxable and relatable because everyone was so casual and just seemed normal. But yeah, Christopher Lee did a great job, and Willow and Edward Wood, Britt Eklund, I guess is her name. Yeah, and Edward Woodward as Sergeant. They all did a pretty good job. But I mean, it wasn't anything that was like super incredible aside from Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle. So I don't have anything else really other to say about the acting. It just worked well. So I hit it at a 3.
Okay, I was a 4 on the acting. I was a 4. I think Lee takes it from good to great. The direction then from I said his name earlier and I've already forgotten it. Directed
Robin Hardy?
Yeah, that's it. Robin Hardy, directed by Robin Hardy. I think he shoots this movie beautifully. I think, well, like we said in our intro, there's very little traditional horror in this movie, but I do think this is a hard movie to say it's not horror, to tell anybody like, no, it's not a horror movie, even though I'm not, like, I personally don't think it's scary. But it is, I guess the ideas, again, of what they're playing with are a little bit scarier. So, but yeah, there's no like darkly lit corridors or creeping shadows, or even the graveyard is brightly lit and creepy somehow. There's some creepy stuff going on in the graveyard.
The lady breastfeeding her kid while holding the egg, like, what the fuck was that about?
Dude, there's some imagery there that, like, that is creepy too.
Odd.
On its own. Yes. And I'm like, I'm sure there's a reason for it, or are they just... I wondered, that's the kind of thing that seems like a Robert Eggers based on a painting type idea where it's just this abstract notion, but I don't know that for fact. But I think he directed it really well, more so in that there's not anything here that stands out like, the tracking shot here or the Steadicam shot, or there's nothing really like that stands out. It is more the approach to the film as a whole is what stands out. This kind of sunlit terror idea is kind of new. This is one of the first films to do that. I don't want to say it's the first, but it's one of those to kind of make it a thing. This film is one of those that kind of invented the whole new genre. And I think that is very much based on what the director chose to do with his film. So it is what Robin Hardy did in his approach to it that makes it so memorable, makes it stand out. I haven't seen any of his other films, which, funny enough, there's only 3 of them. This was his first film. After this, he did The Fantasist 13 years later in 1986. And then he directed The Wicker Tree in 2011. And I do believe The Wicker Tree. I do believe The Wicker Tree is a pseudo sequel, if not a direct sequel that less people talk about. But yeah, so that's it. He did those 3 films. The Wicker Man, widely considered one of the greatest horror films ever made, and then never heard of his next one, and then he followed up The Wicker Man with a pseudo sequel. So he has a very short list of things he's directed, but I think he showed some talent behind the camera.
I would say, for me, man, like one of the biggest shots that I actually really appreciated was at the very end when the Wicker Man is burning down, and you catch the scene from behind the Wicker Man as the head is burning and tilting forward to fall down to show the sun about to set, to show that sense of finality and the end of it all and the end of our sacrifice for their ritual. That in that one scene at the very end there had, I think, the most impact as far as direction for me. Just, burn, tilt, boom, and then boom, bright sun just staring you down, just waiting for it to end, and then boom, credits roll. Good finality. But I also like when Howie is on his way out to see Lord Summerisle later on in the film, and you get that lead up, the music kicks in, then you see the orchards, and then you see the pregnant women in their dresses, walking through the orchard, and then cutting back and forth between them and then all the women around the fire with their little Stonehenge thing while Howie sees all this riding by, and then how that kind of alludes up next into their conversation once he meets Lord Summerisle and talks about their wanting to enhance their sense of fertility. So you got the pregnant women, the women who want to be pregnant, and then the ritual, and then him explaining it. It all has a nice kind of flow to it in that sense.
Which the pregnant women is another thing Midsommar definitely grabbed onto, in that idea of carrying on their, I don't want to use the word commune, but fertility is something that I think Midsommar definitely grasped from
New blood, introduction of new thing with Florence Pugh becoming part of the community, but then also taking her shit ass boyfriend and using him to also bring about, to conceive new children for the commune, for their community.
Yeah. The climax was shot on St. Ninian's Cave on the cliff tops of Burrowhead in Wigtownshire. Man, none of these places sound real, but
yeah, I want to go to Scotland so bad and go see all these isles and check out the UK and stuff like that, and Wales, and just there's got to be some weird name places, but they got to be incredible.
Yeah,
what you see in this film, there's some amazing cliff scenes and caves, and
it looks beautiful.
The quaint small town thing. I love it, dude. That's awesome.
The opening shot is the Isle of Skye. It includes the pinnacles of the Store and Quarang. But yeah, I think he did a good job directing. It's not one of those that I would say the direction is the reason to watch this movie. It doesn't really resonate on a wow, watch this director level. It is just well done. And so I'm sitting at a 3 on the direction.
Same. I'm 3 as well. And it's odd because I actually had something to say on direction.
You did
compared to normal.
You did. Hey, you're getting better at that direction category. I know you didn't like it for a while, but you got stuff to say. Yeah. So the cultural significance that it factor to this movie is, for me, this is another one of the high points. It was well received upon its release because it was this new kind of thing. Los Angeles Times called it a witty work of the macabre. It was praised for being handsomely shot, good performances, that it was made in genuine earnestness, and and it has a legacy of being The Guardian ranked it as number 4 in its 25 best horror films of all time. Number 4, which I think is insane. This wouldn't crack my top 10, but they're like, that's to say this movie is significant, and it's just, I don't care for folk horror all that much, and this movie kind of embodies all the things of folk horror that I don't necessarily always love. And then you're going to hear me talk about how much I love Midsommar, but it's intelligent. Its ending was, I feel like we've been jaded on the shock endings by now. I feel like it was different to receive this in 1973, to have an ending like that. I can see leaving the theater. So I wonder if the ending of this movie was the Hereditary of 1973, because the ending of Hereditary, I left the movie theater wanting to throw up. And so I wonder if that's kind of what this did to people in 1973. And I just don't understand it now. Yeah, Bravo ranked it number 45 on the 100 scariest movie moments. So it it is the main influence for a whole subgenre of horror that is folk horror. So I definitely think this has a cultural impact. And then the remake in 2006 with Nick Cage, it is a hilariously bad film that is, I almost said we needed to do them like at the same time, because the Nick Cage version is remarkably misguided and absolutely one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
I've never seen it, so I don't know. So like when we were doing an intro and you were like, the bees, I had no idea what the hell you were talking about. I'm like, what?
In the Nick Cage one, he's allergic to bees, and they put bees in the Wicker Man with him. And it's just like, why? It's not a necessary addition. It's just there. It's the whole movie. The whole movie is so bad. It's definitely worth watching for a bad movie night, because it is funnily bad. It just blows my mind that it was thought of as a good idea. And like somebody was like, yeah, let's do this.
Sad.
But it's also a Wicker Man has been burnt at the Burning Man Festival in the United States. There's multiple metal bands that have songs that are tributes to the Wicker Man, from Marduk, Iron Maiden, Radiohead has a song, Burn the Witch, British band Pulp. Like, it definitely has an impact.
Queens of the Stone Age has a song called Burn the Witch as well. And they also have a Wicker Man festival in Dundrennan, Scotland.
Oh, wow. I think, was that part of the influence for this? I feel like that had to be. I don't know how old that festival is.
I got to say there's got to be some connection to it, because, I mean, at the start of the film, before the intro credits, they've got that note there saying, thank you for allowing us to take a peek into your culture. So I wasn't sure if that was like a real deal, or if that's just part of the story for the film, because it seems kind of documentarian-ish, but this is not what this is. This isn't a documentary. So I believe that's like a legit statement from the creators of the film to a particular community saying, hey, thanks for showing us what's up so that we can make this story better, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, film magazine Cinefantastique described this as the Citizen Kane of horror movies, which Citizen Kane is widely regarded as the greatest film ever made. So they're saying this is the greatest horror film ever made. I respectfully disagree, but I do appreciate a lot of what this movie does. And I think it would be hard to argue its impact on folk horror and the horror world, British cinema as well, across the board.
And just the topic of cult films, like actual like commune cultishness.
Yeah.
I don't know what other significance it has really largely, aside from the impact that, you know, you see in the film industry. Because I mean, if anything else, that, and then you see stuff like Midsommar, and it's like, yeah, I'm staying away from like small town communities. Fuck that. Which is weird to say because I grew up in a small town out in southeast Arkansas, so there's a lot of weird little places out there. And you don't want to be, you probably shouldn't be, but somehow I still feel like a 3 works well for me on this part.
We need to get into what is that? Let me think of it.
That thing.
Yeah. For It Factor, I am a 4. But we should do a segment on backwoods hillbilly horror. That would be.
Yeah, that would have to be Deliverance would have to be on that list for sure.
I think that is like Wrong Turn, Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, all those. We could make that category.
There's material out there for it.
Yeah, category for next 13 Nights of Halloween. Oh, let us know. I'm a 4 on It Factor.
Cool.
Did you give yours?
Yeah, 3.
Oh, okay. I zoned out. Sorry. I think I was focused on the hillbilly horror. All right. So why don't you go first with this? How entertained were you by this film?
So I would say I was fairly entertained by this film. Having only watched it the one time, I liked it for what it was. It's something that I would recommend for people to check out if they're into that kind of stuff, like the small cult kind of weird films. Yeah, I mean, I definitely watch it again, but it's not something I'm in a hurry for. Maybe not great for like group settings. Maybe something to watch with like your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, whatever have you, just to like see something weird. Like I said, I enjoyed multiple aspects of it, mostly the music part of it and how that connected and like became such a big part for me. And then just the idea of these people and everything that's just so normal for them and no chance of it changing. Thought it was pretty cool. I would say I'm at a 7 on this one.
Awesome. No, I'm glad you like this movie. This is one that, so my wife ironically loves the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man because it's hilarious. And we like Nick Cage. She said she and her college roommate used to watch this movie together and just like quote it and crack jokes because it's
really.
Oh, dude, you got to see it. It is that bad. It is that bad of a film. So, and I remember when that one was released, wanting to see it. So this one was one that was on my list. I've always heard like, oh, the ending, this film is iconic, whatever. So this was on my list that I really wanted to see. And I watched it. And the first time I watched it, I was bored out of my mind for an hour. For an hour. I was like, what is this softcore, like, sex musical that's going on? Because everybody's naked all the time. Everybody's singing all the time. I'm like, what? This is not at all
music and naked ladies. What's not to like? I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of some naked ladies in music. Like, okay, cool.
I mean, I get
aside
that.
from the barley rigs and corn shit, the corn rig, whatever. But
yeah,
corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs and barley rigs.
Just repeated on repeat. I get that. It wasn't a horror movie, and I didn't feel any dread until the end, and so I was kind of shocked by that. On my rewatch, I grew to appreciate it more, and I wonder if this is a similar situation to Midsommar for me, where Midsommar, I just was like, yeah, it's all right. And then the more I watched it, the more I really appreciated it and really grew to like it. And I wonder if that is a similar case, because I can say my second watch was improved over my first, but I'm still not to the point where I would tell somebody like, yeah, I loved The Wicker Man. I loved it. You need to see The Wicker Man. I'm not there yet. It's going to take a very niche person for me to even remotely say like, yeah, check out The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man. You're going to like that movie. I'm not there yet, but I can say that I appreciate the time and care, the construction and the craft that went into this movie. I see all that, but my full thoughts on comparing this, because Midsommar is so influenced by this film, it's almost a remake. Like, that's how influenced it is, from the burning of something at the end of it to the introduction of an outsider into the culture, the fertility stuff. It's all there. So my final thoughts on that on night 13 when we discuss Midsommar. But I am at a 4 on this film.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not going to this one. This isn't a movie I'm going to grab. I'm going to watch Midsommar before I watch this one. I appreciate this film. I just don't know that I'm going to spend the next 88 minutes of my night watching it again. I don't know that. Right now I've seen it like once every 2 years, and that's probably pretty good for me. I'm about good with that. So, yep, I do come in a little bit lower on this one. I'm a 4.
Oh, hot damn. Although, I gotta say though, what did you think about like the almost life size body, like person of bread that the guy in the bakery made was carrying around when they're doing their little procession? Like,
that was creepy. That was creepy. I also, it like coming out of the oven, it looked kind of good.
I know, right? I was like, that's a tasty looking human bread, you know?
I like some fresh bread, yeah.
It's just crazy though, because like when he's doing his investigation, he's in the library after you see like the kids in a line with their weird little doll effigy all wrapped up being creepy. Like, he's reading about what the pagan ritual is like, and he's like reading exactly what's going to happen to him. So it's like, ooh, wow, automatic foreshadowing right there.
Yeah.
You know, what the hell? But
yep,
it's just so much crazy in this film, but in a weird way, I like it. I don't know.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you did. Sometimes I like bringing movies that I like bringing movies that you enjoy. I'm kind of, if anything, I'm more upset by that little game they play with the swords where people pop their heads up through them. And I'm more upset that they're building it up for somebody to get their head cut off. And then when it does, the girl pops out like, ha, I faked it. And I'm like, that would have been a really jarring moment to be real.
Well, everyone was like, oh no. And it's like, oh, it's just Molly. It's Molly.
Yeah. They just laugh it off and keep going. Like, man, that moment, I actually would have taken some genuine like scares. That might have been a little nice. But it almost plays as comedy at that point. But yeah, I hate to be so low on it. But the weird thing about it, and I love bragging about the system I made again, we actually don't end up all too different on our final scores. Do you have yours?
I believe I was at a 34.
Yeah. And I'm at a 32, which would be a 33 out of 50 or a 3.5 stars, which means it's a good movie for social settings, but that's just with 2 people creating the average. We would need some more votes to get a better idea, because like we said, I think this is kind of a niche audience that would most likely at a party be bored by this movie. So I think your better party option in this case would be a Final Destination film, something probably, like that. Yeah, but or if you're at a film buff, they get some appreciation out of this one. This is by no means a bad film. I think that's shows in our scores. We're at 3.5 stars out of 5. I think it is one that you really have to have an appreciation for the location, the time period, the craft of the movie itself. I don't think this is easily accessible for a casual viewer. I don't think this is easily accessible for a casual horror fan. If you're into like, oh yeah, I like the Saw movies, and you're like, what's this Wicker Man about? Like, it's not going to work out for you. Yep, it's not going to be the same thing. So you got to have an appreciation for that folklore aspect of it. The cultural stuff, I think, is super fascinating. I think that's the strongest point of the film. So,
well, as a person of some Scottish descent, I love the fact there's a bunch of dudes running around in kilts on a Scottish Isle. And just rocking that shit. I was like, yes, fucking kilts everywhere, dude. Yes. But the 6-point sword thing that they were doing, though, with their game, I thought that was pretty rad. Oh man, just waiting for something to happen to see someone get their head sliced off, like the anticipation for that, and then Sergeant Howie having to go through it. Like, oh shit, is he about to get his head cut off? Like, I don't know. We're like, whoa.
Yeah, that scene is tense. That scene is good. That's one of the standouts for the film.
Yeah. So pretty rad.
You have final thoughts on it? Or are we wrapping this one up?
Well, there's no bees, so I can't really say much else. Whatever.
All right. Let's close this thing out then. I always think it's interesting. My just nuts. We're clocking in right about an hour right now. And anytime it's just you and I tell anybody who's joining, it's about a half hour per person. And that ends up to be accurate just about every time. If we have 4 people, we usually talk for 2 hours. If we have 3, hour and a half. It just works out. I love that.
That is pretty awesome. But, very accurate. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's going to wrap it up for tonight's dive into the strange and sun-drenched terror of The Wicker Man. It's not your typical horror movie, and that's exactly why it sticks with you.
Yeah, this is one of those films that lingers. It is quiet. It is patient horror built on tension between belief and fear, isolation and tradition. And the final scene is iconic. It's burned into the DNA of the entire folk horror genre as we have explored.
And hey, huge thanks to everyone who filled out their scorecards and dropped their takes in the comments. We say it every time, but we mean it. This is what makes the show what it is.
Exactly. This is the average where the real review happens with your friends. And if you're loving this countdown, don't forget Halloween is the perfect time to add something spooky to your bookshelf too. You can pick up my books, Harvest of Briarville, or Like, Comment, and Survive right now on Amazon. They've got all the eerie vibes, cursed rituals, and unsettling towns your October heart could want.
And we've still got more coming. We're not even done yet. 13 Nights rolls on, and it only gets creepier from here. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share the show with your horror-loving friends, and keep that scorecard handy.
Until next time, be wary of fruit baskets, stay out of Mayday festivals, and remember, some sacrifices don't look like horror until it's too late.
We'll see you in the next one.